Will my spouse ever want me again?
Brannon, how was the fourth, man?
I love the fourth.
It's like the best holiday of the year, other than maybe Thanksgiving for me.
I know it's great. I loved it. My neighbors put on this party that is over the top, just incredible. Um, they did a full fireworks show, like a city does. It was crazy. That we had there's like six food trucks,
Like a neighborhood party.
a neighborhood party. It was incredible.
That's really cool.
I loved it. Yeah, it was fun. Just get out with the kids. What'd you guys do?
We same thing. We spent a lot of time just kind of just with the family, a lot of outside time, and then, just really good food too.
Do you remember that time we ran the fireworks shop and sold fireworks? We got a bunch of extra leftovers,
Those
and
were
we opened them up and like dumped all the gunpowder into one pile,
I
and
don't
just
know.
threw a match on it.
I, I don't know what we were thinking.
And then there was this big mark in the road, like melted the
just
tar. Just
just
yeah.
a big black spot on the road. It's amazing we all survived our
Rex
childhood.
lost an eye for a while.
Well, Rex was throwing firecrackers, and for some reason he thought it was a good idea to light one and
He
then
was
get it right
stuffing them
right
in
by his.
snails,
He
stuffing,
was-
and then throwing them, and he did it right by his eye, pop. And then I remember him saying, like, he started kind of crying, like, I can't see out of my one eye. And I thought, he's lost it for good.
I
Like,
was like,
this is
yeah, he might
it.
have just blown his eye up.
Yeah, he's done. Get him a patch. Like, yeah. But it came back. So,
Thank goodness.
yeah, we've had our fun with fireworks in our day. So, anyways, should we get into it here, Tyler?
Let's do it, Brandon.
All right, Greg, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, if you could give us a little bit of background, just tell us what's going on and we'll go from there.
Well, a couple years ago, I had some betrayal behaviors, and it took me a while to clean those up. But up to um, uh, I'd say about 2 years ago, I finally really kind of got those out of my life. But we haven't been intimate in 3 years, and what was kind of weird is even while I was still struggling to rectify the betrayal behaviors. I was a part of 12 step and I even went to inpatient for a while. She would still be intimate with me. Um, but all of a sudden that stopped.
Mm.
And, the goalposts kind of moved over the course of time. I also had some issues with drinking and I had to kind of clean those up. And I, you know, and I, you know, I still have to really be careful with it, but I, by and large, changed my behaviors there. And then it became, the way you talk to me is you say mean things to me when you're mad, and so I had to kind of work on some of my anger issues, and but she still says I don't feel safe, and it's like no matter how hard I try, I've really done a lot of work to clean up all those things, my managing my sexual compulsive behaviors, uh, becoming more responsible with drinking, um, learning how to manage my anger. I've worked so hard to control all those, and I've made great strides, and I've made real changes, but it's like she still keeps moving further and further away. We're actually separated right now. We were separated, living apart. She recently let me back into the house, but even when we moved back into the house, some of the old patterns of kind of little conflicts uh, resurfaced. I haven't said anything mean to her, but she still is kind of holding that against me. And we're back to, yeah, I'm going to file for divorce. This is not working out. And I'm just beside myself. Like, what do I got to do? I've worked so hard to bring things back together, but the harder I try, it's like she just keeps moving further away, and becoming even more and more. The bar keeps getting higher and higher, and it's never quite good enough. And I'm just wondering to myself, is this the new norm? And even if we don't divorce, is this just going to be the new norm? And is she ever going to come back to me? Is she ever going to you know, feel safe enough because that's what she said. She said, I need consistency over time and, I need safety. And I'm trying to give that to her, but is she going to come back to me? I mean, does she expect perfection here? Because I mean, I'm not perfect. And is she ever going to come back to me? Is good enough ever going to be good enough? I guess that's what I'm wondering.
It's a great
Okay.
question.
Yeah, it's a good question. This is actually probably a question that I think a lot of our listeners would probably be wondering and asking about too. When you say come back to me, you're talking about emotional, friendship, sexual, all of it, or are you
Yeah,
talking about
yeah,
specific parts of it?
yeah. Affection, intimacy, sexual intimacy, um, just day-to-day affection, trust. Is she ever going to trust me again and just kind of be just let herself like entrust herself to me again and just relax enough to just trust me with herself and all those things.
Okay. And then just a couple of questions, just to be clear. You had a disclosure a few years ago. Is that what you said?
Yeah, and it took me a while to I struggle with even after disclosure. Just continue to struggle with porn and then I had a near affair about 2 years ago. I didn't know there was no sex, but there was definitely emotional involvement and physical contact, and that was after a year of no intimacy. So I think I was kind of feeling entitled and rejected, and somebody paid attention to me, and you know, um, but even since then, and she knew about that, and unfortunately, that was around the time of our anniversary, so that was a bad time for that to happen. But um, just, but since then, I've really gotten a handle on. There's been, you know, every now and then I have a minor slip with looking at explicit images, but even then, it's very few and far between. Like maybe once every couple of months, but there's nothing else. So, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, and then she invited you back into the house when? How long ago?
About 3 weeks ago.
About 3 weeks ago. Okay. So I just want to make sure I'm tracking this properly. D-Day kind of happened about 3 years ago. You didn't really start working recovery until
No,
about 2 years ago,
D-Day D-Day happened about 8 years ago.
8 years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
So then what was the 3 years ago thing? That's when she stopped being intimate with you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then you didn't really get serious about your recovery until about 2 years ago.
It's not that I didn't get serious about it. It's just it really took me that long to give up the things I needed to give up to really. I mean, I mean, I was part of 12 step and I was working to, you know, I was going through the 12 steps and working all the things to try and get my behaviors in check. But it wasn't until really, um, yeah, it's really been since 2 years that one instant where I just have not had any more problems.
Okay. And so then to encapsulate everything you're saying, across all of that, you found yourself working really hard trying to change the behaviors that you need to in order to create trust and safety in the relationship. And you feel like the more that you do that, the further away she gets, and you're kind of tired
Y-
and exasperated.
Yeah, and she's not like it's like I see myself making these changes and changing my behaviors and but despite that, I don't see her gaining confidence. I see her just slipping further and further away. And every, you know, she says she doesn't expect perfection, but any sort of little like, well, I saw you had 3 drinks on Friday, and that's more than you should be drinking. It's like that. I'm now how am I supposed? Your behavior is still persisting. It's like, well, okay. Um, I don't know that that's, cause for, you know, saying that you don't feel safe. And you know, um,
Greg,
and
Greg, can I ask you a question? So 8 years ago was D-Day. 3 years ago, you really started to get like things more under control. During that
no,
2 years ago, right?
yeah,
2 years ago. So during that 6 years, um, how was your honesty with her? How was your openness and transparency when you would slip up or when things like that would happen during those
I
years that you,
struggled with it. I struggled with it.
yeah,
I mean, I would be, but you know, um, uh, and then it's also a matter of, um, you know, how much do you really need to disclose too? So, but but yeah, I mean, I struggled with it a little bit.
right. Um, yeah. So were you in the 12-step program the whole time, like from 8 years ago till now?
Yeah, 12 step, and
Yeah.
yeah, I
Um,
joined 12 step almost immediately as soon as I started having really started the behaviors kind of went out of control.
okay. Um, so as you started 12-step, sounds like it took you a while to really grasp being honest with yourself about your powerlessness over it, right?
Yeah,
Um, and then it took you a while to understand a step three of turning your will and your life over to the care of God, because you were in control and trying to really be careful about what she found out or what she knew for a while, right?
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I would disclose stuff. It was just hard for me to do it. So
So okay. Um, would you like trickle it? Would you like tell her a little bit here, or
sometimes I'd trickle it. Sometimes she would find out before I tell her.
Okay.
I had trouble telling her on her 24-hour time frame. Um, but I guess I learned over time that eventually it comes out, you
And
know,
so before D-Day, um, how long have you been married?
13 years.
So 5 years before the D-Day. So were you acting out the whole time?
I had issues with porn, but it didn't turn into going outside the marriage for until about 2016 or
Okay.
late 2016.
And with those issues with porn, you would just hide them from her and not talk about it.
No, she knew about it, and she at that point she didn't think it was a big problem.
Oh, okay. Okay. Um, okay. So now that you're sober, you're wondering, why isn't she feeling safe because you're sober? And when is she going to be vulnerable with you again? So
Yeah,
that's what I'm hearing.
and the goalpost kind of moved. It was like, okay, well, I'm not acting out anymore. It's like, well, yeah, but you know, now it's about for I had some struggles with drinking and some irresponsible behaviors there, and you know, and then it was like, well, you're doing that, and that doesn't make me feel safe. Okay, okay, well, we got to get that a hold of it. It's like, well, now it's like you're when you get angry at me, you lose your temper and you say mean things, and and that became the real. And so, okay, it's like, well, I really got to get my emotions under control, and so it's like, okay, we're doing all that, you know. Um,
Okay. So in your mind, Greg, what rebuilds safety and trust
in my mind,
from what you understand?
it's not acting out. It's you know, if I do drink, it's being very responsible with it, and and um, and I toyed with quitting. With stop, I did stop. Have some periods where I stopped completely for a while, um, and but late in the past, I'd say, couple months, I've been able to really uh, be responsible with it when I do, and I don't drink that frequently anymore. Um, and and then it's um, just making sure I uh, really control my learn to control my anger and um, you know learn how to self-regulate when she does things that are hurtful or disrespectful or violate my boundaries. Um, you know, so because there's some of that behavior on her side as well that is still ongoing. Some things slightly improving, but a lot of behaviors still that she does that I've got issues with, that I've got problems with, that are still pretty pretty frequent. But that doesn't excuse me from. I still love her and I still want to be with her. And she needs me to be have control of my anger, and so I need to do that regardless of what she's doing.
Could I just maybe just a couple of thoughts? One of them is kind of amusing that might be worth thinking about and checking out with your wife, and the other one is really kind of a question for you, Brannon, for the sake of trying to help Greg.
Yeah.
Is that all right? The first thought that's kind of coming to my mind, and I'm just wondering if you're kind of in this process a little bit right now, is that two things can sometimes be happening at the same time, and both can actually be true. And it sounds like, from your perspective, you started this journey a long time ago and it took a little while on the uptake, but then the 12 steps started to kick in. You started to see yourself differently. You feel like you're making a ton of progress. You like the direction you're going, and that feels really, really good.
Yeah,
Right. And that feels true. I mean, that's true to you.
yeah,
Right. And at the same time, a betrayed partner, this isn't uncommon because of the way that she's been hurt. She's got eyes to see the red flags that could still cause problems. And so as you've kind of done your bumps and bruises of growing over the last several years, chipping away at dishonesty but still being dishonest, chipping away at sobriety but still being not fully sober, what she sees is he's still not doing all of his work because that stuff is still happening and that's dangerous and it doesn't feel right. But what you feel is like, man, but I'm really changing. And she can't see the feeling on the inside. She just sees what is right there. And then she feels something. And the feeling is the thing that I wonder if she's still queuing into. And this is where I want to ask Brannon if you feel what you feel from Greg in the way that he's approaching this.
Yeah. Just to, and Tyler's setting me up to give you some pretty direct feedback here. But I feel a sense of well, sadness, but I feel entitlement. I feel some shame still from you, and so, like, let me give you an example. When you're managing your anger, let's say she's being rude or having some bad behaviors or whatever. And if you're telling yourself, well, I need to create safety, so what I'm going to do is bite my tongue and not get angry, even though deep down inside, like, I'm pissed off. Like, and I'm sick and tired of her railing on me, right? But I'm going to
yeah.
be nice and I'm not going to like lose it. Um
A lot of what
that
I do is what I've started really doing recently is saying I've got to disengage from the situation, and a lot of it has centers around our raising kids when I feel like she's kind of coming in and managing or controlling how I trying to manage or control how I parent, or just taking over completely, taking over completely over from me completely. And
again,
that's
a sign that she doesn't trust you, right?
yeah, yeah,
Um but and that's good to disengage. That's good. Here's the issue is if all you do is back off and just hold resentment toward her and wish that she would trust you, you're actually fueling the problem of being unsafe because you're not being totally vulnerable and honest with her. You're also taking personal a lot of the things that she's doing. So there's a to Tyler's question, there's a lot of signs to me, Greg, that the underlying problem is still there. And so your wife is hypersensitive to that right now. She might go overboard to see it, like see every, but there's a lot of signs that the underlying problem is still present. And so she's not running to your arms. This is good news and bad news for you. All the work that you've done is not done in vain. That sobriety is awesome, Greg. But
Okay.
the good news is you have opportunity to actually shift into becoming a safe man. And I would say right now you're not there. And me and Tyler will show you what this actually means. So, Tyler, did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, I think this is like I'm so grateful, Greg, that you're on here today, and I hope that you'll be able to feel and maybe glean something from this that'll be valuable to you. But that's what I'm getting at is that of course, there's two sides to this. We only have you here, so we've got to address you. There could be something that's just like your wife is shut down. She's not going to open up again, regardless of what you do.
That happens.
That does happen sometimes, and sometimes you have to then be the one to make a hard decision and go, you know what? I'm probably in her way, and we're not really good for each other right now because of where things are at, and there's too much water under the bridge, and it's probably the merciful thing to end this. But because you don't want to end it yet, and because you're on the show, I'm trying to figure out like what is it that I'm feeling from Greg because Greg's doing some recovery work. Like you've you've gotten yourself sober, you're working on your anger. It sounds like you're working on your alcohol stuff. It sounds like you're trying to find middle path in all of that, which might also be kind of messy for her to see. It's a little bit easier if you just decide to stop drinking or if you decide to stop looking at images or porn or whatever. But when you're still kind of dabbling there, that's gonna feel less safe to her. But really more what I'm feeling is I'm doing all of this so that blank. I'm doing all of this so that she'll trust me again, so that she'll feel
With
safe
an
with me again,
agenda.
so that we can have intimacy again, so that I can be good enough. And I think what Brannon said is the two words that I'm feeling is the resentment builds because I'm working so hard and she doesn't see it and she's not giving herself back to me and I deserve it because look how hard I'm working. But then the bigger part to me is I'm still feeling this I don't know if it's shame or lack of self-forgiveness or something else where I'm still chasing her needing to show me I'm good enough rather than really truly like pausing and looking at the mirror and going like I really like where I'm at and who I'm becoming and the trajectory I'm on and I'm going to give her the best of me no matter what.
Hmm.
Because I like who I am already. I don't know if any of that is true or not, Greg. What's going through you or what are you thinking right now?
It's hard. Some of it's resonating. I, I am not. I know that I need to do these things for myself, and I do want to do them for myself. And without a doubt, I do. I want to be. I've recently done a lot of thinking about what my values are, and I've come to like, hey, respect, kindness, and composure are kind of like, okay, that's the man I want to be. Oh, I'm sorry, not respect, responsibility, responsibility, kindness, and composure, or that's that's the that's
I
the
like that.
that's the values I want to live to, and and I feel like I'm really starting to live in accordance with those, or I have been living in accordance with those for the last maybe year or almost a year, and but yeah, I still um have a lot of I still struggle with liking myself. Um, so I really do. I still struggle with liking myself. I still uh, have a lot of shame of, it of where things are at with her and I because of me. And so that's all true. Yeah.
Your recovery, you need to divorce your recovery from her. So like what I mean is like I loved what you just said. Like be compassionate, be kind, be responsible. If you're truly those things, you'll be a safe man. If you have agendas and you have shame, then you will consume her, use her, try to get worth from her, which will shoot yourself in the foot. It will yield the opposite results of what you're trying to get. So, yeah, just focusing on yourself, that's easy to say, right?
Yeah.
But like focus on your real deep recovery. So go your layers that you've gone down like are good. You've gotten sobriety, you've worked the 12 steps.
He's working on a character flaw of anger.
Yeah, working on those character flaws. That's good. That's all good stuff. But the real question is, why has addiction come into your life? What has it been soothing? Um, what trauma is there to actually take a look at, and in what ways can you get yourself to a place of loving yourself again, so that in those moments when you don't get sex or she's frustrated by something, you really in a stoic way can handle that. You can sit in that in an energy of strength. um, I'm going to say this to you, Greg. I think you understand this, but on one hand, you're saying to us like, "Gall, how long do I have to wait, and how long has it been?" And on the other hand, I'm hearing years and years of like pseudo recovery, like kind of in it, kind of not, right? And so from her standpoint, if you were to take a step back, it's going to take some time to actually be like, I can trust him, because you were kind of in the worst um, type of scenario when it comes to trying to build trust, where it's like I'm working recovery, but I'm not really.
It's like there's a form of recovery, but denying the power thereof, basically.
So how will she know? How will she know that it's actually not that this time? And the way she'll know that is she'll feel it from you. She'll feel your strength. Your ability to empathize with her will be awesome. Your ability to be honest with her. And you don't have to be perfect. You might lose your cool once in a while, but you can come back and say, you know what, I want to own that. I want to take responsibility for that.
I always do. Whenever I've always done
Good for you,
that.
Greg. That's awesome.
And it's not even sorry, and it's not even that often. I mean, the last time I uh, really lost it and said mean things was what started our out of separation was back in February, you
Hmm.
know, and so it's not like I'm doing this. I'm losing my cool every week. It's like once every a couple of months, you know. So how good is good enough, you know?
And you own it when you do that, right?
Absolutely. I go, you know what, I totally did. And I always own my part. I don't feel like she's always done her part on taking responsibility for, well, what about the thing you did that was kind of not so kind to me, you know, or what
Yeah.
not so respectful to me? There's never really been that side of it, but um, I've kind of learned to just focus on my side of the street, I guess. So,
Sometimes, I think Brandon and I are trying to put ourselves in both of you guys' shoes. And I think what Brandon's saying is true, that being in your shoes, it's hard to be working the way that you feel like you are and to have a need or a desire or a want to be so connected in a relationship and to have it in your face all the time that it's not. That is
yeah,
it's a really hard place to be emotionally. It's like there's like a void that's always open on the inside, wanting it to be filled or to make sure everything's okay. So everything Brandon and I are saying, I know comes with an intense amount of work and struggle and pain that goes on
yeah,
with it. Right.
yep, true.
That's really hard. And I think just acknowledging that and validating that what we're talking about here is not easy, and and there is a real process of true pain. Part of where I think Brannon's trying to go with you is that not only do you start to get sober and start to work on your anger, the next step is to be consistent with that. And yeah, every 6 months or whatever, like that's probably an improvement. And if there's a continued improvement along those lines, that's going to continue to build trust over time. But but part of also what's kind of like going on here is Brannon, I think, is getting at, if your wife is actually mistreating you, you can lovingly show empathy for her pain while still also being authentic with your boundaries. And that would also be building trust because it's authentic. And if you're just trying to please her and always be safe and always just be like purely composed, which is great, but then you don't ever get a chance to actually say, hey, that didn't feel great, or you know what, I'm not going to talk anymore if we're going to call names or whatever else. I'm just giving examples. I don't know if that's happened in yours or not. Um, then it doesn't actually feel safe. And then here's another thing that starts to happen in many relationships when there's been this kind of breach. And what Brandon said is true, that there was this kind of like, she doesn't know how sturdy the ground really is because sometimes it's looked sturdy and it hasn't been. And so, but when there's been this kind of a breach and then trust starts to actually be rebuilt, sometimes it's conscious, but more often it's subconscious. The partner who's still wondering if it's really safe, if you're actually really safe, will actually, in some ways, sort of test the safety of the situation. And this is where people who've been working really, really hard throw their hands up and be like, no matter what I do, it's never going to be good enough. When in reality, what it was, holy cow, like he's actually been showing up in a certain way. Maybe I can breach this subject that I've been carrying for a long time, or maybe I'm going to kind of do this thing to try to sense whether or not I'm actually really safe with him or not, if he's actually going to follow through with what he said he's been doing. And at that moment, that's the next pass through in another drop of trust in the bucket, or it's going to blow all of the water that you've been accumulating in the trust bucket out, depending on your response.
Right. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Uh, Have you ever heard the analogy of the wind and the trees?
Brannon loves this analogy.
No.
Well, some of this, whose job is it to create safety in a relationship?
Uh, both of us?
Whoever can in the moment, um, whoever's strong enough to do that. Who needs safety more in a relationship, a man or a woman?
Woman.
Yeah, in my opinion, a woman. Why?
Um, that's just, I'm not sure. I guess that's just how women are wired.
But yeah, it's if you think, from a survival standpoint, like a woman's job is to assess safety because they're vulnerable, and if they're around a man who's dangerous, and they're vulnerable to being taken advantage of and hurt, and so it's their job to be hypersensitive and really careful with their safety. Where a man is like, yeah, safety in a relationship's important, don't get me wrong, but a man will get close to a woman, be intimate with a woman with less safety because it's not as scary.
Yeah.
um, and so the reason I'm bringing this up is, the wind in the trees. Our job as a healthy masculinity is to be the solid tree that is grounded and rooted and stable. And
Right.
the woman's job is to be the wind that whirls, that moves, and at times they'll be irrational and emotional.
Yeah.
If you were to ask who's more emotional, men or women, what would you say?
Women.
Yeah, that they're built that way for a reason. It's important. So it's like, why I'm bringing all this up, Greg, is a shift in perspective from your part could be really good for you to not look at this as equitable. And now, what Tyler said is absolutely true. You should stand in your truths and have your boundaries. That's being the solid base.
Hmm.
But if you're like, well, why can you do this and I have to, then you're like tit for tat here. And she's like, I wish I was married to a man. Do you see what I'm saying?
I guess so.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Um, I think I missed the last bite. Audio went out, or the sound went out on the last part of your analogy with the tree, but I think you were saying that, she's the wind that kind of sweeps around the tree and blows it. And is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. But I- yeah, I guess I think you're saying she's going to be more emotionally driven,
Yeah.
and she's looking for somebody that can weather her emotions and, you know, weather some of her behaviors that are maybe more emotionally driven and just kind of roll with them and not be tit for tat where, well, you behave this way, so, how can you hold that behavior against me? So,
But
yeah,
betrayal, Greg, betrayal is a blessing and a curse here. So the betrayal gives them an answer that, hey, I'm not with a safe man. Like I got betrayed, I got hurt.
right.
So where's the blessing? Do you know where the blessing is with this?
No,
It's it's good news and bad news. Okay. On one hand, like it because of the depth of the pain, and she's still in a relationship with you. You're not divorced yet. It gives you a ton of opportunity to start to show up as that solid tree.
right,
Because she's gonna whirl. You betrayed her, like whew, she's like really gonna be figuring things out here. So that's the good news, is it gives you a ton of opportunity. The bad news in it is it's really hard. It's really difficult as the person rebuilding trust to stay solid, to stay steady. Our trust equation: honesty, empathy, and consistency. Like it's difficult to be those things over time,
yeah, it really is.
right? However, as you strengthen yourself in your own recovery and do that underneath work, you'll naturally start to show up those ways. And
Right,
it comes back to what Tyler was saying earlier. As you naturally do that, it will hand it back to her and give her a chance to either take risks with you again or get really clear with herself that she never wants to do that again. And she may or may not, right? Um, right now, she's saying, I don't want to take those risks, but I don't want to divorce you. So you're in a limbo land, right?
yeah,
Your job is to figure out, how do I stay up truly, not in a fake way, but truly empathetic and honest, and do that over time, right? So what do you
right.
think about what I'm saying?
Uh, it sounds like I'm not at a place where I can say, I can even ask the question, is she ever going to come back to me yet? Right. Yeah, so I need to keep working on maintaining my recovery and maintaining my living in,
Not your sobriety, Greg.
yeah,
Your recovery. Like
yeah,
I wouldn't even say maintaining. I would say digging deeper into my recovery.
right. Yeah. And um, really living and trying to live into my values that I've figured out, and and really just keep hanging in there and working to show up, working to make sure I'm showing up as the man I know I need to be, is what I think I hear you saying.
The man you were designed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really good, Greg. And there's another thought that's going through my mind that you can kind of know, because part of the question is, when do I know when to go? And
Yeah.
what we know is that we allow ourselves to be treated right up to the level we believe we're worthy of being treated. And so this kind of dovetails into what Brannon was talking with you about, is that the more that you grow into your authentic identity and your authentic strength, the more you'll start to set boundaries in the relationship that are healthy. And those boundaries will do two things. They will invite a new relationship that will move towards respect and intimacy and connection and safety and trust. And that'll give your wife an opportunity to start to opt in or out. And as you grow in your strength and in your confidence, not in the like this prideful ego strength, but in the assuredness of being self-forgiven and self-accepted and knowing who you are and being and liking what you see in the mirror, by nature of doing that work, your boundaries will move you to a spot where you'll know when it's time to move on.
I see.
And
Yeah.
because right now you're just exasperated and tired and she's never coming back to you, but your proper boundaries aren't in place yet because you don't believe that you're worthy of those things yet.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So I know we've been talking a lot at you, Greg. What's going through your thoughts or feelings?
Um, a little bit of discouragement because it sounds like just, um, if I really still want this relationship back, it's a more amount of time just living, just enduring the lack of connection and the lack of love and affection and intimacy. And that's hard. So
Greg, do you believe in God?
absolutely do. I mean, I'm a
No.
Christian. I've been a
No.
Christian since I became a Christian in high school. And earlier in my life, I was very fervent. I had some things that kind of shook my faith up through my 30s, and 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 I kind of struggled with my faith ever since. And even in the last 10 years, have had some things that made me really question not my faith, I think, but my how how I how I see Christianity and how I perceive what it's supposed to be.
Hmm.
So yeah,
I'd love to dig into that with you even more. Um, but I feel your discouragement, and I really appreciate what you said about maybe I'm a little too early to be even asking this question. Um, but within that, if you can find it, there's a real place of liberation and freedom and hope. And what that is like whether she loves me or not, whether she chooses me to stay in this relationship, I can go create connection. I can be the man that is a vulnerable, open man. I can reclaim myself. I can find myself again. And guess what? Your relationship does not hold those cards. Your wife, whether she loves you again or not, does not hold those cards. And because of that, that's awesome. Like that's freeing. Do you see
right.
what I'm saying, Greg?
Yeah, yeah, I do. I do.
He's like, but it still hurts, Brannon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Right,
exactly.
right.
Yeah, because I still do love her, and I still do. I see what I want with her, and you know, and I still don't get to have that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hear what you're saying. Finding that, I guess you were saying that self-validation isn't dependent upon her.
Well, but that self-validation, your ability to actually create trust, it's a catch-22. Your ability to actually create trust with her is dependent upon you having that self-validation, dependent upon you knowing you,
Right.
right? And so it's awesome because you can let go of her and do this work, and then hopefully we'll see a product of that is you're a safe man and she wants to be close to you, right?
Yeah.
But you're using fear and control to try to get her back to you versus using faith and surrender and letting go. Um, and
Fear and
so
control, how? I'm not sure what you mean.
you're trying to be a good boy. You're trying to do all the right things. You're trying to stay sober. You're trying to be honest. You're trying to, I got to do this. I got to do that in order for her to love me again and be safe again. Versus, versus like taking a risk and saying, I'm going to trust myself that I'm good. I'm going to turn my will and my life over to the care of God. I'm going to let God love me here. And I'm going to operate from that place. And I hope she loves me back. I hope she comes back. But I can't force that. I can't control that. I'm,
Right.
I'm going to show up as an honest, empathetic man, regardless of her,
Right.
because that's who I know that I am deep down. And so that's who I'm going to be. Responsible, compassionate, and kind. I think those are the three things you said, right?
Responsible, kind, and composed.
And
So,
composed.
Composed.
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
So I'm going to show up those ways, and she'll either love me or she won't. But that's, I'm not going to control the outcome because you don't have control over this outcome. Do you
Yeah.
see what I'm saying? Do you see the difference between fear and faith here?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I do.
a life of consistency of those things, responsible, kind, and composed, when done consistently over time, will also grow you into a place where one day you're going to wake up and be like, you know what? Like, I am all of these things and I feel good about all of those things. And now I have choices that I otherwise didn't feel like I could make before. That's what Brandon's saying is you're playing with house money inside the relationship because everything you do for yourself is an invitation for the relationship to get better too, but you're still doing it for yourself anyway. So no matter what, you win.
Right. Yeah. I
Yeah.
see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, Greg, it's been really good to have you on. I can hear that there's a little discouragement in your voice, but I actually think that you brought a lot of good here, not only hopefully for yourself when you go back and listen to this again, but for a lot of other people to be chewing on and thinking about themselves. This is a very, very common question, and I want you to know that you're not alone in all of this.
By the way, Tyler, are we doing a Rising Sun giveaway?
We hadn't talked about it, but we
I think
probably should.
we should. Greg, I'm throwing you in the drawing for a free pass to our retreat. Okay,
Wow. That's great.
I'd love to have you there.
Yeah.
So we'll let you know.
Okay. Yeah. I'd love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Brannon, we need to figure out then what the drawing is. Is this for like, again, like we did last time, for anyone who is a guest on the show or signs up to be a guest on the show
Before my birthday,
before your birthday,
July 31st.
July
So if you
31st?
if you are a guest or sign up to become a guest, and this also includes women, if they want their husbands to come, they can sign up to be guests too, and we'll put their name in the pot and give away a free Rising Sun, which is a big value, by the way.
Okay. So, yeah. So if you want to come on the show, then you got to go to therapybrothers.org and sign up to be a caller on the show. But we would love to have you guys. But yeah, that'd be great. So I think, it's funny, Brandon, because as you said that, I was thinking Greg is like he's in prime position for something like what the Rising Sun Retreat would offer.
Absolutely.
Just that internal wrestle kind of stuff that we've been kind of hammering away on.
His recovery's right there, ready to take off to the next level.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Greg, thank you for being on. Appreciate you.
Yeah. I really appreciate you guys having me.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, if this was helpful, please leave a review.